Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. P.S. Just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a psychological empath, meditation master, dimensional healer, all the things to help you within this ascension. To learn more about me, visit me at edenjustbe.com. And let's get this party started. I wore this shirt specifically for you, thinking it was kind of beachy and islandy. All right, quote, smile. Okay, very nice. All right. And what I always do, I'm curious. I always do this, and I'm curious with what other people will do. I shake a little bit, get myself grounded. You feel free to do whatever works for you. Okay. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom with Christina. Welcome. Please say hi.
Thank you, Eden. So great to be here finally.
Yes. All right. As you guys know, and those who listen weekly, I've had 3 classmates of mine from this Galactic Akasha Records course that we took. So Christina will be the 4th. Yay. And then we'll have a little interruption in this Galactic class, and my regulars, P and Cullen, will be back on next week. They are my returning guests, and as always, they bring the beautiful Palladian group Lark Ma. And if you're not familiar with them, Christina, they are the bomb. Then we're going to go back to this Galactic Records class, and our teacher, I will call her the Galactic Goddess, Debbie Solaris, will be on the show as well, kind of rounding everything out beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So today we are going to get into intuitive eating, food, as always, the Great Awakening, spiritually, how all this combines in all of that. So before I introduce officially Christina, I want to add this one little tidbit. I always keep abreast of what is going on in the world, and the goal is to be in it, yet not of it. And I started seeing all these things that are happening to kids, and it just got so heavy. So I had to back off of it for a couple days. So I always encourage that to folks too, because there's so many rabbit holes. There's so much that is going on right now. If it's getting overwhelming for you, just take a step back. Again, trusting that everything's going to be okay. All is good. God has this all under control, even though it doesn't seem like it. So letting you guys know that just happened to me. So I'm backing off. You can too. Okay. Now out of Hawaii. Okay. So we have 2 bios together in this. So I'm going to kind of go bounce around a little bit. So, Christina will help wind it out. Okay. She's in Hawaii right now. She's from Germany. So Christina Becker, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and certified intuitive eating coach. And she went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which I think is awesome. She's an avid chocolate taster, a chai connoisseur, and sourdough baker, as well as a former dancer. We're going to talk some about that. Again, current yoga practitioner, meditation practitioner, and did the Galactic Akasha Records with me. So she took that specifically, as we talked about before, to really connect and work with star seeds. So to add on to that, this is what she sent me today. She's a Reiki master, is a licensed health and nutrition expert turned intuitive channel, energy healer, and spiritual vibe living teacher. Okay. And tell me, because I know you wrote this, but I might have it written the wrong way. Your company or methodology is called Nourish. Is it your company name?
Exactly. It's my company name, and it's my philosophy, right? That it's all about nourishing your body, mind, spirit, and energy body.
Yes. Okay. And your tagline is nourish you, savor life. Okay. In terms of dancing, that led her to New York City, then the Bay Area, and her spirit called her to Hawaii. And you are my second guest right in line from Hawaii, which is also awesome. Can you take a second? Well, is there anything within that you want to add?
No, I think you covered a lot of ground, and the rest will just come in as we speak.
Wonderful. All right. Tell us first, please, when you, as the show all has the basis of the Great Awakening, when did
Yes.
you start to notice things?
Hmm. Well, if I really think about it, probably even as a child, right? There was always a bit of this like, why do we live this way? Why do we treat each other this way? So that kind of started early on. But of course, like everybody else, I was brought up in the culture where we all just accept the things the way they are.
So,
And
what
this,
was it like growing up in Germany now that you've moved in different locations?
Mhm.
What do you see from it now?
I don't know. I don't know if the upbringing there was much different from here. When we're talking about growing up in any, first world country, I'm sure the experiences are very similar, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on the family relations, on moving up a certain path as is prescribed by society, the things we want to accomplish on our way, right? School, education, college, family, the house. So I think these things are very similar across most of the first world countries.
What city in Germany did you grow up in a certain city, and how long were you there?
Yeah, so I grew up between Cologne and Düsseldorf, which are two big cities at the River Rhine.
Okay.
And I left right after high school. And the first place I went to was actually Holland. I studied dance in Rotterdam and in Amsterdam. So, and that was also, I think we'll talk about it more, like I was already as a small child, I was like, I need to be somewhere else. This is not home. I need to travel. I need to be some other places in the world. And so I've always had this calling, or maybe that seeking of the true home, which now, of course, we realize might not be on this planet. It might
Yes.
be just more galactic in nature.
Yes. Okay. Really interesting. We had a brief conversation before this, but we didn't go into this. So in my one trip to Germany, what was so awesome was the food. I remember that specifically. There was an outdoor market that was just to die for. Yet for me, the energy was also very thick.
Mm-hmm.
Did you experience that? Or because I just went to my hometown actually a week ago, and I haven't been there in 8 years. And even in getting there, suddenly it was just like, oh my, so oppressive. So I hadn't noticed that so distinctly before until now. What are your feelings on that? Do you look back and go, "Oh yeah, that was pretty dense," or it just was what it was?
Well, I think every place in the world has its own energy, right? Countries,
Yes.
cities, homes, buildings. And of course, when I grew up, I was already in the 70s. So this was quite already some time after the World War II. But of course, every country is still healing their own wounds. So most likely that energy was and is still going on. However, right now, I find the energy everywhere is so intense because of the process we're going through. And since we're kind of unlocking all the stored trauma and suppressed energies that need to be healed, they've been coming up to the surface in the last years or decade or so. And I feel it's like everywhere we go, and this is why people want to go in the cave, right? We just want to
Yes.
kind of be a little bit secluded, a little bit protected. So I think it's just the process in many parts of the world where you will tap into different energies that are manifestations of healing, right? Release. And so for some time, it will be in the field and in our faces.
Yes, in our faces, exactly. So when the spirit called you to Hawaii, how long have you been there now?
I've been here less than 2 years.
All right, how's it going?
I love it.
Oh, how come? Why?
Yes, how come? Well, Spirit has always called me to many places. My first true calling after moving to Holland and Amsterdam was actually going to New York City, right? Most dancers go to New York. So I spent a long time in New York, and I've always had this calling also for California. So eventually I had to pack up my bags in New York and move to California. The end goal was always to be what I would say a tropical place. Hawaii always had that really deep resonance for me, but I've also had strong connections with Brazil and Mexico, and Thailand. So I've also been in different places. for me, Hawaii, I think it's not only the lifestyle that many people are seeking. As you know, Hawaii is a remnant of Lemuria. And I think that is that really strong connection that I've been seeking for, not knowing, for most of my life. And the first time I actually flew into Hawaii, first island I visited was Kauai, and I saw the island from the plane. I just bursted into tears. It
No
was just
way.
such a strong remembrance for me, and such a strong activation that happened. And I knew, I was like, I have to, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to eventually end up. And here I am.
So when did that happen for you? How long ago until you actually moved there? A couple years or 10 years or?
I think in the back of my mind, Hawaii has been there for more than 10 years.
Okay.
Always like, I need to go to Hawaii, I need to go to Hawaii. Then I think I visited the first time in 2018, which was very late. That was already years after I've been wanting to go. And then from there to now, it was like another 3-4 years. And the ascension, and not the ascension, of course, the pandemic helped, because since everything moved to virtual, and the changes at work and in my own personal life just allowed the opening to say, okay, I've always said, I always felt that I want to be in Hawaii. Now's the time to go. And I did go, I visited, and I signed a lease within 5 days. So
whoa. Okay. So that experience of crying, that was 2018.
18 or 19,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, you just
This
knew.
time, just before everything really came into play. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Can we take a moment and go into your, I guess if dancing can be a part of this dancing, nutrition, food relationship. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So I called my first passion was dance. Was always, my parents always joked that I was dancing before I could walk.
Oh,
And so so I got a BA as a dance instructor in the Netherlands. And it was my passion, it was a calling, it was something I had to do. But of course, as you know, dance training is very demanding. And so you're really, because they kind of first break you down and then build you back up, like many many performance arts educations do. So I had to kind of really get in touch with myself very early on. And of course, I was forced to learn to have really strong self-care and self-love tools on my belt. And I think that is what naturally then brought me into the world of nutrition, health, and wellness once I moved to New York.
okay. So from what I understand and what I've seen through people, it can really just break down that self-love and extreme body conscious. So that
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen to you essentially, like you took it and utilized it essentially.
Yes. Well, I was definitely in a part of it. I did not, and I can say that openly because I work with people with eating disorders. I did not get an eating disorder, but I remember being in this place where you're constantly being told that you're not good enough and that your body isn't good enough and that you need to look a certain way. And I always had this like, this is stupid. All right.
Good
There
for
was
you.
right. I mean, of course, I also tried to, maintain my weight, etc., like everybody did. So I certainly did, but I did not go to any extremes doing
Extreme.
so. Because there was something in me where I'm like, I didn't go down that rabbit hole. I did maintain that boundary and that self-love where I'm like, this is good, and I stay within a healthy range, and I couldn't go beyond that, luckily. Yeah.
That in terms of people that you worked with, was it more common for people to get stuck in that idealism that they couldn't quite match, or did you find like 50% stayed, maintain those boundaries, or what would you say since you were in it for a long time?
It depends also on the type of dance you do. There is
Yeah.
certainly higher pressure on ballet dancers, or used to be. We're also in, this has been like was 20 years ago. So I know the world of dance has changed too. But back in the days, if you were a ballet dancer, you definitely had to be extremely skinny. for modern and jazz dancers, there was, of course, also fitness and appearance was important, but it was never as intense, I thought, as for ballet dancers. And since I did not become a professional ballet dancer or ballerina, luckily I was also spared some of those expectations. However, your question is to how many people do go in. I think even many people, most women, whether they're dancers or not, are part of our body image culture and feel the need to look a certain way. And that's, of course, also why I do practice intuitive eating with my clients, to help them heal any relationship with their body or their body image as needed.
Okay, so as you do that as a living plus more, what have you seen? What would you, what if you had to broad line say where women are today? I don't know if that's, well, let's start with that. What would you say?
I think our culture is very much used to disliking themselves. It's very easy for women to be at the criticizing end, not being good enough, whether it is their body or what they do, what they look like, what their hair looks like, their nails, right? We can go down the list. So there is a massive lack of self-love and self-acceptance, which, as you know, is a really big contributor to lower vibrational energy. And this is why I started bringing in the vibrational piece too. I'm like, if you're constantly talking negatively to yourself or about yourself and other people, this is not a high vibrational way of living. And this is because of what we are currently going through, right? With the ascension process, the awakening, we can't hold on to these patterns and thought patterns any longer. So they have to be brought to the surface. We have to put the spotlight on it. You have to listen to our inner dialogue, which is not easy.
It is not, right?
It's not easy, especially because, our parents or our mothers told us the same things. Our friends are telling us the same things. If you go on Instagram or if you're watching a movie, we're still being bombarded with these messages, which are all messages of not like the opposite of empowering people. So that's what I'm seeing, but we are seeing the wave coming in of changing that. We're seeing the body positivity movement. We're seeing a lot of people doing meditation, going deeper, listening to their thoughts, challenging their thoughts, empowering themselves and embracing self-love and self-compassion more and more. So we're definitely doing it. It's just a work in progress.
Yes. I want to share something with you. Okay. So I've always been small chested. Hello, everybody. Whoop, whoop. Would have loved to have.
Yes.
I don't want to say if I felt comfortable getting implants, that would have been fabulous. But a part of me was like, I will never do that, because I also have a retainer, a permanent retainer in the back of my mouth, and it still bothers the heck out of me. And I've had it for like 2 years. And, the orthodontist was like, oh, you'll get used to it. You'll be fine. So I know if I had something put in here, it would just bother the heck out of me. So I am good with it now. I guess I'm not really quite explaining this yet. It's so interesting, Christina, that flat chestedness, I guess, is starting to be in vogue. And there's a part of me that goes, oh, yay, finally. Not that should matter. Yet there is a part of it that is just feels good. Because I watched something on TV a while back, and this woman was, totally flat chested, and she was wearing really low cut things, and she was just beautiful. And you don't see that. So I was just like, oh my gosh, look at that. Because it does even though I love my body and love myself, plus I'm really thin as well, that there was something about just seeing her that did just make me smile, even though it doesn't matter. And I'm awake and I'm doing all this spiritual stuff too. There was still a part of me that was just like, oh, that's great. What would you say to that?
Well, that is really just showing where we're still at a culture, and including all of us awakened spiritual meditators, yogis. There is still this feeling of lack and finding our imperfections. Now, obviously, that's not only our own fault. Besides our upbringing and the social norms, this is very much fed by the industry. So we have to remember the industry, there's the beauty industry, there's the fitness industry, there's the weight loss industry, all of these different things. They will constantly point out what's not right with you so they can sell you their products. So I think it's very important for us also to not be exposed to these messages anymore, especially young children and teenage girls. Even boys are starting to be just as affected. The invitation is, once we realize we're still having these insecurities, we just want to ask yourself, like, what is it about? Like, why am I not loving myself the way I am? Because it is available. It is available to all of us, right?
Yes.
It's a choice we have to make, where we eventually have to say, I do not want to participate in this. Also cultural norms will always change, right? Remember, there used to be the curvy body, then it was the stick figure, then it was the athletic figure, then you had to have a big ass, then now you have a small ass, now you have to have a big chest. We're all born different.
Right.
You have to go back to that. Yeah.
And talking about the Kardashians for just a moment, there's this one picture of Kim, so unnatural, like this, and then this, and it's just like, just feeding this to people that this is normal. No, it is not normal. All right. So I do some intuitive eating work as well, but it's not my focus, which it is yours. I talk to people a lot about the way you eat is the way you see your life. And that it's so much more than just, oh, I'm going to pick up something here. It's so deeply rooted within us. And I have to tell you too, because I also, as you up your vibration, your desire for food becomes higher vibration as well. So right before we got on this podcast, I had an organic sweet potato. Okay. And I'm not saying this to go, oh, look at me, I'm so great. But this is just what it is, what happens. So, and I eat meat too, because not eating meat right now would not be, because there's so many other things I don't eat. So I had an organic sweet potato with ghee on it, cinnamon, salt, sea salt, and mineral-based salt and pepper. And it was so delicious. And I have found, so I've talked on my show that I stopped doing processed sugar completely in November of last year, just because that affects your soul, body, and your spirit. And I'm also no alcohol anymore. Let me clear my throat for a second. No alcohol anymore, because that also on some level numbs you to everything that's happening. So again, I'm not sitting here saying, don't drink, don't. To each his own. And there, are other psychedelics that people really enjoy right now. Yet for me at this point, that is not where I'm aligning myself. What would you add to that? As I do my finger like this.
Yeah. So I mean, we can talk like a whole week about that, but I love this topic.
Okay.
I love this topic. So let's dive in.
Yes, let's go. I'm ready.
I am a very big believer, and again, been working as a nutritionist for over 20 years. Your mindset about food is really crucial.
It's everything.
It's everything. So this is why in intuitive also, it's like you have to start making peace with food. So I do not categorize food as good or bad.
Yep, exactly.
And that's very hard for people, very hard, because again, of the conditioning, right? French fries are bad, salad is good. So again, it comes back to really getting to the point where you can go inside, connect with yourself. We talked about this in terms of self-love and self-acceptance, but also to reconnect with your physical body, your human 3D body, and become more aware of how things affect you, including food, right? So when I work with clients, like if they want to eat their chocolate, or like chocolate's not a good idea, but like whatever people think is bad, what do people think is bad food? Donuts, maybe, right?
Yes,
Ooh.
cake. Let me add in there, as Christina is talking, food cannot hurt you.
Yes.
Okay.
Your thoughts can though.
Yes. And affect how it actually goes into your body. All right. So let's say something highly caloric and sugary, like you said, donut, chocolate cake, or a piece of cake. All right. Beautiful.
Yeah. So your thoughts about it are very important. First of all, if you're already thinking, oh, I'm going to cheat, it's a cheat day, I am guilty, I shouldn't have that, I should go to the gym. Tomorrow I need to fast to pay off the chocolate cake. Those are already very a low vibrational thoughts. Any guilt is very, very low vibration. So one of the things you want to get rid of is guilt. B, you're not going to fully enjoy, right? You also want to enjoy your food. Every time you eat something, you want to enjoy it. The enjoyment also will increase not only your happiness, but your vibration. So if you're already having a chocolate cake, enjoy it. Now, obviously, there are chemicals in food that affect our body. There's nutrients that can nourish our bodies. There are other things like sugar that might not do much, but they might feed our soul, or they might give us this enjoyment. They might evoke childhood memories that are really important. They might connect us with our culture. So also, okay, so that's about the mindset, which is really crucial. And there's actually studies on that where they, did like real research. They took two groups, they gave them the same milkshake. They told one group it's a diet milkshake, and the other one they were told it's a regular milkshake. It was the same milkshake. The people on the what they were told it's a regular milkshake gained weight. The people that thought they were drinking diet lost weight or didn't gain weight. So again, the mind is that powerful, and we have to harness that power in a positive way and not be victim to the negative effects of that good or bad, guilty eating mindset. So that's number one. Number two, of course, if you are becoming more aware of your body, you're tuning in more, you're getting vibrationally, you're increasing your vibration, you will maybe become more sensitive to foods. If you feel eating the chocolate cake doesn't feel good, you can actually say, I get a headache, or I get the sugar rush, I get really tired. If I eat too much sugar, I get constipation, doesn't really feel good. You might not eat those foods or less of them. But that comes from a different place than the negative, the critique, that's a bad food, I shouldn't have that. So I do teach my clients to get so much in tune with their body that they can have ice cream and stuff in the house, and they sometimes want it and they enjoy it, but if they don't feel like it, they don't have it. And they more often pick foods that make them feel really good. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Oh, yes, indeed. So let me add into that. So I, as a child, used to eat a lot of sugar, and it was primarily because it sweetened my life. So I found in my life, so now I'm not doing processed sugar at all, but I still like sweetness. So honey, and I use a lot of, not a lot, but use xylitol. And I'm curious what you think about xylitol, because I really love it. Yet I don't really have the need for it as much anymore because my life is sweet now. So
That is very sweet. And no, absolutely. I mean, sugar also, for some people, it's sweets and sugar, and for other people, it might be comfort foods that is like more like fat and like fries or chicken, I don't know, pot pie or something, or it's comfort food, southern comfort food, right? People might go to certain foods for emotional reasons, right? And of course, we do want to acknowledge our emotions. We don't want to be stuck in a cycle where we always eat for our emotions. But there's foods of different quality and different flavors that are to be enjoyed. And everybody has to make this choice for themselves of what feels good to them and what nourishes them, basically on all levels, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
So what then do you think about Weight Watchers?
Well, okay, and Weight Watchers is basically an accountability tool, right? Anytime you do kind of calorie logging or points logging, it's a bit of an accountability tool or accountability partner that can help people when they're not really present to the eating experience, because we can all become trained to become an intuitive eater, or actually reconnect with our intuitive eater, because we're born like that, and know, like, what do I want to eat? How much do I want to eat? And while you're eating, paying attention to, how hungry am I really? And am I really hungry, or am I like just stressed? And when am I starting to be full or satisfied with the food? So if we're practicing intuitive eating, we don't need calories, points, any of those things.
Didn't Weight Watchers start throwing in a little bit more emotion behind it?
Yes.
more recently?
Most programs out there are trying to get on board with the intuitive eating or the mindful eating approaches because they are actually very popular for good reason.
And because they work.
Because they work. And so they bring in that education, but it's still, there is still the, you can only eat that many points, which goes against intuitive eating because there are no points. Intuitive eating is going to make you tune into your own self. Now, I'm not like against Weight Watchers, against paleo. Like, I feel like there is space for everything. I just like for people to empower themselves to become their own expert, including in terms of nutrition and eating, and to not be as reliant on these outside systems that tell them what and how and when and how much to eat, because that kind of keeps you in that cycle. But again, we're also, as we're changing, the world's changing. So Weight Watchers was a really good example of a 3D approach to the problem. And now we are starting to leave many of these approaches behind.
And it was really interesting. There was a nutrition friend that I used to have, and her thing was, oh, well, the amount of calories in is the amount of calories out. I do not respond to that. I could eat a vast amount of calories and my body would not be affected. So what I love about intuitive eating is, like you said, it's about you, because these 3D programs, oh, we're going to give this to the masses and this is going to work. We're going to put it out there for everyone. And it's so individual, as you're talking about eating what you grew up eating, the emotions behind it. It's so like no one eats like you. No one. No one sees life like you. No one has the background that you had. So for you, working with the individual, what is can you talk about one of the neatest stories that you had, if that's not confidential? Or
no, it's certainly not with names, and I've worked with thousands of people, so I'll just pick certain general examples. You want one on intuitive eating per se? Well, I mean, this is a very typical scenario where a woman comes in, often like maybe in the 40s or 50s, who have been on the diet hamster wheel for a very long time. And it's a really good time to come in. They often come into me where they're like, no, Christina, I'm tired. I don't want to be on another diet. I don't want to log my food. I don't want to know about the calories. And I just want to, enjoy life like they've
okay, and I bet that's pretty good for you. You're like, yeah, let's go. Because some people are very resistant to, oh, I'm just gonna eat whatever I want. Oh, I'm gonna gain weight. Okay, sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So with this, let's say with this person, I would first, we would kind of talk about the history of dieting and how it has served them or not. There's often a very clear understanding that has not helped them. If anything, it has made the problem worse, because, with every dieting attempt too, the weight roller coaster, actually over time, the weight just goes up. That's kind of all scientifically based. That's just how the body responds to restriction. Which, by the way, we haven't even talked about this whole thing of restricting our body, right? Shrinking our body while we're trying to expand our energy field. But that's a whole different.
Oh, we might have to talk about that after. Okay, let me keep that in my head. Go ahead.
Yes. So basically what I walk my clients through is how it has served or not served them, what they're looking for in life. Then there is, depending, every person coming in has a different story and a different background. So some women need to do more work on their body image, right? Sometimes it goes really into their upbringing. It's a lot of psychology kind of therapy involved, like what their mother might have modeled to them, or the comments they've gotten from their family when they were younger and maybe they weren't skinny. There could have been food insecurity, so they learn to eat as much as they can, like almost like a binge eating whenever there was food around. So there's a lot of different things that go into our eating behaviors. But what I love about the work is when I see, when women come in and they can see diet culture for what it is. They can see how they are harming themselves by the way they're talking to themselves and the way they are trying to punish themselves through exercise or restricting of food. When that self-love, like when their higher self really kicks in and reminds them what it feels to really love yourself, and when they can go around and really say, this is diet culture, these messages are wrong, these pictures of skinny, whatever. And again, there's women of all sizes. So there's women that are naturally very small. But when they can see that we are being fed a certain body ideal that kind of keeps us in prison, many women are really imprisoned by it. And when they start making decisions about food from their own inner wisdom, when they can have the foods around themselves and don't worry about overeating, when they don't judge themselves when they went out with friends and they're like, I'm going to order the dessert. Yeah. And they're not even ashamed about it anymore. When I see and I hear these stories, it is so beautiful, and it just always warms my heart. I just want to cry, because women are just like, they're kind of taking off the chains that kind of kept them small and restricted.
So let's move, if you're comfortable, moving to talking about small, and that we are, through this great awakening, expanding. Talk about the relationship of those two. Get some chills in my arms.
Well, the pressure, and I'm talking about women specifically, men are also now suffering with body image, but historically women have been repressed longer to look a certain way. The corsets, you have to have a small waist. Or remember in Japan, you had to have very small feet. So you actually had to bind your feet to it, things like that, that now we can look at and think, this is terrible, but we're kind of still doing it. Women still wear these spandex things that are hard to put on, apparently.
And then just getting stuff put all in their body, and Botox, and just injecting all these chemicals. Ooh, yeah.
So again, it's a form, I find, we're being kind of kept small, and also to not take up space physically, but also energetically, right? So, but I mean, women are definitely stepping into their power. I feel in general, if you're trying to, and also vibrationally speaking, many women, all they think about all day long is, I have to go to the gym to lose weight. I have to spend 3 hours to do my hair. I need to get all these things done. That's taking away from other aspects of you, especially your spiritual self, right? How much time would you have to actually do things that are meaningful or of service to others if we would put away with all the extra time spent on trying to look a certain way? I'm not talking about basic hygiene and, yeah, it feels good to go out and have a nice dress on, right? Those things are wonderful. But this overemphasis on how we look and never being good enough, if we stopped all of that, you could direct all that energy, time, and attention to things that truly matter, including your spiritual growth, and maybe including becoming more aware of your intuitive gifts and becoming part of this movement in this ascension process. But for that, we have to be able to shine our light wide and bright. And if we're trying to keep ourselves small and we're constantly like nitpicking, not good enough, we don't get into that space.
Let me ask you this then, in terms of, okay, so there's also this body image of looking a certain way. Then there's the aging part, that, to look good, you have to be young, and you have to get these implants, and you have to do that. What do you think about that as well?
Yeah, it's along the same lines. I think all of these things, like I always say as a joke, I'm anti-aging. When people come to me and they're like, oh, we have all these lotions, and that's like, what's wrong with wrinkles? What's wrong with gray hair? What is wrong with aging? We start aging the moment we are conceived. This is part of the natural process. And I personally, I don't give much into this. I'm also aging. I'm seeing the changes. And it's something I can embrace, because I've had a lot of experience in my lives, and it's showing.
And it shows.
We have our scars, and also what is wrong with, like for me, I don't know how I have to put something more on social media about this. Like, what is wrong with aging? But again, it's also the industry telling us, right? If you're constantly watching TV and you see commercials about anti-aging cream and wrinkles, this and that, and Botox, it becomes your reality. And we, of course, you and your listeners know this, mass media, commercial marketing, they're all targeting in a way to make you feel not good enough, because there is products to be sold to you. And who's going to buy these products if they love themselves unconditionally?
Righto.
Right? Okay, then we can spend money on crystals and essential oils. I mean, there's still industries that can make money, right? So don't get me
Yes.
wrong, right? We got mala beads.
Oh, fabulous.
But definitely less money on this industry, or hair products and makeup, and we can go down the list. It's endless.
Okay. And plus, let me add on to that. So many of the chemicals that are in these products,
Yeah.
not only are well, I'll just put, they are really bad for you and purposefully to keep you small and to keep you down. What was I going to add to that? Oh, I forgot. It just slipped out.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. In terms of our ascension, also, that aging and disease, like I'm excited in a sense to be, so I'm 55 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to be in this process because I'm getting to experience aging, yet also knowing that our bodies are going to transform and so many things are going to be different about that as well. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be like, yet I'm also excited that I started to get to really experience this process, if that makes sense, and to really understand, what it feels like and yeah, what it means, yet knowing that's going to be shifted. What are your thoughts on that?
You mean the shift, like our bodies are changing?
Yes.
Yes, they are changing. Well, we also, we have different generations of listeners and ourselves, and of course, some of the younger generations will have a very different trajectory than some of the older generations have. I say let's embrace the generation we're in, the genetics we were born with, and I know the genetics are changing. I mean, we didn't go into any of this yet, right? On the whole vibrational level. Let's see what we already see, right? That people are living longer. We already see people that look young for their age everywhere because of the changes in energy and DNA changes, crystalline structure, etc. But we also see it because we've always had more nutrition available, more so than any of our ancestors. And we're going to yoga, we do meditation. So we're also doing a lot of other practices that can keep us youthful, not young, but youthful or vital. I think I like the word vital even more, because the vital can be adjusted to the different generations, right? The energy you have in your 20s will be different from the energy you have in your 60s, and that is totally fine. I think so, but that's, I've made peace with these things. And again, I was young, I was part in this, and again, it's this matrix of, not good enough, bye, change yourself. Like, it is a control system. It is definitely a part of the controlling system that we're in. So if you want to free yourself from political control, this kind of is a big part of it. Yeah.
Why would you say that for our audience?
Because we're still in the system if we are buying into the messages we're being fed, pun intended.
Fed, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Because real freedom goes, I mean, it's endless. It's magnificent. The freedom that we can achieve, but it's a lot of getting rid of false and old beliefs, which includes family values, cultural values. It's a lot of unpacking we have to do, and it's happening at a very rapid pace. And it's challenging. And I have a lot of knowledge around these things by now, because also I'm older.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I still have to remind myself, like, I'm choosing freedom. I'm choosing to be a sovereign being and being connected with my own inner wisdom, my own intuition, with my guides, and make my decisions as much as I can based on that, as I am shedding old programming. And again, body image and the way to eat, etc., is all part of that programming.
And it's not just unpacking one suitcase. There are like thousands of suitcases, and and just like you, I've been doing this for a really long time, and it's going to be different for folks that are coming into the world right now. They're not going to have as many suitcases, yet they're coming into the world as it is right now. It'll be really interesting. There can be a lot, and It's the best thing to start unpacking these things. Like you said, freedom and just sovereignty and finding if you're a woman, and we all have the divine feminine, male or female. I do want to ask you, because I do want to go into the Just Be practice in just a second. And we talked about, we'll have time if you want to do the tips and the meditation as well. That would be beautiful. So I think, one final question to ask you before we do that. What starseed are you?
I'm still discovering that.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also unpacking, right? Going into the records and getting different information on all my different lifetimes. So I am a Lyra survivor. But I also feel connections with Sirius, and I know I've been there to teach and to learn both. So I have that. I feel very strong connections with the Arcturians, and they've been showing up a lot in the last year for me. So I haven't yet seen the visual recall of the lifetimes, but I know the energetic connection is there. So those are, I think, and Palladian too. So I have all of them, and we know, right, we might have many, many different ones. I'm not yet picking one as the only one. I'm still like, let's look at all of them.
Yes, I love your answering that. It's so cool that you brought up the Arcturians, knowing that they've been coming to you for the past year. It has been probably for the past month, they've really been showing up for me, and I'm still not quite sure what that means. But again, this is all an adventure, and it's so cool because I've expressed before, knowing that there was more to this world, yet the past 2 years, really starting to educate myself and really starting to open the doors. And it's just, I don't know about you, but for me, blowing my socks off, because there was so much, again, spiritual, doing all the spiritual work, yet this was a whole other component that I had not been a part of. So it is just so much to learn, educational. And I'm loving it too, because there was a part like, oh, I know this and I know, and not being ego, but yeah, I do know that. But this part, I'm like, oh, had you had a connection to it for a long time, or was it relatively new to you? What would you say to that?
I felt the inner connection for a long time, but I think in the last few years, it's just we got more of we're remembering more.
Yeah.
For me, honestly, the Arcturians came in when I realized, because I've been in touch with my guides for a long time, but some people have like a name for their guide and they see the guide and it looks like this. And I didn't have that. And I was like, at one point, because I was getting like all my intuitive gifts were so open and I was receiving all this information for other people. And I was like, okay, why is it for me not happening? So I got myself in a meditation and also putting the intention, like, I am open to, and I'm ready to learn and see, because it dawned on me eventually once I was getting more information on the galactic piece, right? Because when you do spiritual, it's all like it's all like building up to it. Your spiritual is just more, I'm a soul. We come from source, and we're here to learn lessons, the karmic, right? So you're still in this world. The moment I was learning more about the galactic reality, and it was really more like remembering it, I was realizing, oh, maybe my guides are more of a galactic nature, and I haven't yet allowed myself to see them. So I did put myself on a meditation. I did get like on this traveling out into space, meeting something that was looking very alien.
Oh, that's neat.
And I remember there was still this little bit, we all want our guides to be angels and fairies and, princesses, and I was like, oh, that's my family. They're like looking different than what I expected. And I was like, now I can actually open myself up to them. And that's when they started really coming in and showing up, and I can sense them, and I know they look different. Than it's not the Palladian beautiful like Nordic. It's not that look for me. It might be for your guides. So anyway, I don't know how I got here, but I had to actually open myself up and invite them in and say, oh yeah, my guides are alien looking. How cool is that?
So nice. And to announce that this is available to everyone as you just continue opening up and increasing your vibration. What magic is out there is incredible. All right, can we use this parlay to go into the practice? Is there anything else you would like to add?
Let me see. Oh, there's so much. And I know we didn't get into all the vibrational, but I want to just point out that everybody needs to start where they're at. And, you might just start with your mindset. You might start with good self-care before you even get on your spiritual journey, before you even get into galactic, like your starseed origins. But no, take time to become quiet, to listen to what you truly need, because the guidance is already given. It's just we're often too busy, like we're too busy losing weight and looking a certain way to hear the guidance. But the guidance we receive and the connection we have with the earth, with other souls and the galactic reality is so much more fulfilling than, looking super hot in a bikini. What I mean?
What do you mean, Christina? Come on. Yeah, baby.
Just be
So I think this is
practice.
just in the summary a little bit of what we've talked about so far. I know, you and I, we have this, very spiritual galactic connection. We talked about something very practical today, which is more like our relationship with ourselves and our bodies. And I like to tell my clients that, as we are moving into this new earth, the ascension is happening, our vibration is changing. We have to work on our vibrational health on a daily basis if we want to move into this next realm, this next chapter of humanity. And that includes mindset, it includes nourishment, and it includes vibrational self-care. So these are 3 tips I want to give you a little bit more info that people have something practical to do after listening maybe to this podcast. And again, the first one is just a summary. Everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy, and it's very, very powerful. And yes, your thoughts about the donut will be more important than the donut itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's important. So we have to make peace with our body. We have to make peace with food, and we want to become very aware of the inner dialogue and the messages we bombard ourselves with every day. This is super important. If you do only one thing, pick up a mindfulness or meditation practice, become aware of your thought process, and start picking out and getting rid of the ones or transforming the thoughts that are not serving you any longer, because you can't, this is going to keep you stuck. Yeah, that's number 1. 2 is nourishment. And when I talk to my clients about nourishment, yes, we talk about food. Actually, we talk about a lot of other nourishment. What nourishes you spiritually, emotionally? Like, what do you need right now? Do you need more rest? Do you need more sleep? What type of movement do you need? Maybe you don't like boot camp. Maybe you go to exercise and hate every second of it. With every second you hate going in the boot camp class, your vibration is going to get lower. And don't even get me started on some of the music they're playing, which is not really good for you.
That's a whole other talk, isn't it? Oh my gosh, there's so much we could talk about. I think we'll have to continue this at another time. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Too. But really ask yourself what nourishes you, becoming really at home in your own body so you can feel which foods resonate and which do not. It's something you can learn. And then the last tip is the importance also of vibrational self-care. And what I mean by that is it's not a surprise that sound healing, Reiki, energy healing has become so popular. People are coming out in masses to receive healing. So I do energy healing too, combined with the intuition and starseed readings. But find something that is of a vibrational nature to include in your routine, whether it is sound healing or getting a Reiki treatment or learning Reiki. I teach people how to practice Reiki on themselves. Give yourself 5 minutes of Reiki every day. Listening to brainwave music, really, really, really powerful. Tapping, using crystals, smudging, any of these things. And I have a whole long list. We can do a podcast on that if you want. But start including this in your daily routine, because with this process right now and all the, the electromagnetic energy coming from the sun, if we don't integrate this energy on a daily basis, you're going to be having a really hard time. So those are maybe my 3 main tips for those out there to get started.
Awesome. Let me just add in smudging. A smudge stick you can get at Marshall's or Target too for like $5. It's so easy. And for me, I do a candle to light it because a lighter just won't hold it. So easy, so simple. So some of these things are not expensive. I will add into that just grounding, going outside in your bare feet for 5 minutes a day. I mean, these things don't cost money because y'all got to elevate now, because if not, you're going to be left behind for a while. I don't think anyone's going to be left behind. But yeah, for me, I want to go ahead now.
Yes.
And I am ascending now. Christina, as I pull my headphones on, that was so awesome. All right, everybody, you got your 3 tips. She's chock full of good information. Listen, watch out, and we'll see you next week. Christina, if you can stay with me for just a second. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Eden.
You're welcome. So cool of you to be here. I went from being off most social media to being on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or True Social, and you might be watching this on YouTube, Rumble, or BitChute. Or you might be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm on over 19 directories at this point. So connect, comment, subscribe, like. Oh, and my intention is to have a new episode out Wednesday of each week. Oh, Lordy, more to come.